think what's happening around the world just can't be real, there are a growing number of scientists and philosophers and wealthy business leaders who say that it's not real because they believe that we're living in a simulation of a whole bunch of Sims who just don't know that they're not real. And that's based on their belief that we've already gotten so good as a society at developing artificial intelligence and creating simulations that ultimately we would create a vast virtual reality of other Sims who think that they are real, don't know they're not, and then that they would advance and create another simulation society and then create another, and then you'd have simulations all the way down. Therefore, the chances that we're in base reality are infinitely small. Therefore, it's all a simulation. But that assumes that we as humanity collectively are smart enough to avoid mass extinction. And our follies in fighting COVID-19, which may just be a warm-up act to other pandemics, especially with a changing planet, which we happen to be changing. Well, it all suggests we may not be collectively smart enough to be able to avoid extinction and therefore get to the point that those philosophers and scientists think that we will get to. And therefore, good news is there's a better chance we're in base reality right now, not some simulation. The bad news is that we may not be in it much longer.
Our addiction to fossil fuels is pushing humanity to the brink. We are digging our own graves.
The climate summit in Glasgow did not deliver what the overwhelming consensus of scientists say was needed in order to avoid a global catastrophe. By burning fossil fuel for more than 200 years, human beings created this man-made blanket of carbon pollution around our atmosphere, and that's trapping in more and more of the sun's heat. It's why we call it greenhouse gas. Scientists say it's already causing the stronger and more frequent natural disasters that are driving up insurance rates and damage and suffering and death around the world. And if we don't take much more action, the overwhelming consensus is that it will deliver something strikingly worse. As in 99% of all coral reefs destroyed, low-lying areas around the world flooded, and an unending stream of catastrophic fires and droughts and storms, and mass crop failures that can kill millions of people. However, scientists say that we can avoid that doomsday scenario if we can just keep average global temperatures from rising more than 1.5 degrees Celsius since the industrial age began. But it's already risen 1.1 degrees Celsius, so 1.5, we don't have that much time.
Every nation has to do its part with ambitious targets to keep 1.5 degrees in reach.
Within reach are the operative words, and we're in trouble because right now, under current policies of nations around the world, we would shoot way past that 1.5 degrees to 2.9 degrees, triggering the end of the world as we know it.
The tragedy is, this is not a movie, and the doomsday device is real.
The nations around the world have set pledges to reduce carbon emissions, but one, it's not nearly enough, and two, many are not honoring the pledges they've set. So it sets up a situation where even if they met all of their goals, and many are not doing that, it would only take us from 2.9 degrees on average down to 2.4 degrees, still a far cry from where we need to be to avoid a global catastrophe.
Because time has quite literally run out.
Now, the Glasgow summit did deliver some positive movement. Among the highlights, India stepped up, joining the United States and other nations in pledging to cut fossil fuel emissions in half by the end of this decade. And the United States and China struck an agreement to do more, but didn't spell out specifics. At the same time, Brazil and other nations that control 85% of the world's forests vowed to stop forest destruction. And China, the United States, and more than 100 nations pledged to cut methane pollution, which escapes through leaky pipes and uncapped and abandoned wells throughout the world. But while all of that is progress, climate activists and many of the delegates are disappointed by what they could not accomplish. For example, they set a goal of helping developing nations transition away from fossil fuel,
where rich countries put more money on the table to support developing countries.
They fell short on that goal and missed on the goal of helping vulnerable nations already suffering from climate change, as former President Obama noted.
We have not done enough, and our islands are threatened more than ever.
And big picture, again, the pledged emission goals still don't take us where scientists say we need to be.
Right now, we're still falling short.
And despite what some philosophers may think, this is all too real, and time is running out.